All right, welcome to another episode of Tennis Channel Inside In on the Tennis Channel podcast. Mitch Michals from the Santa Monica studios. Special treat, because it doesn't happen much, the double guest. And not only a double guest situation, but going to be calling matches together, have been. We'll be going right to the booth after this. Jan-Michael Gambill Leif Shiras, tennis players, turned commentators, turned TV commercial stars. So welcome to the show.
It's great to be here, and I know you've originally booked Jan Mike, but I was like, come on, man, I want to be on his coattails. So I followed Jan Mike in here, begging and pleading to have some time with you. So appreciate including me, man.
It's cool.
That'd be fun. I mean, Leif's got some of the best insight in the world, and I'm always lucky to sit alongside him.
Yeah, and I say it in jest, but the commercial's getting a lot of traction. ZipRecruiter, we see it all the time, and I like the energy, because that's the biggest thing, is that's how you guys call matches. So we're high energy, whatever we do.
I mean, that's what they're yelling at us. Show some energy, show some life. But I think we finally got it right in the end. It was really fun to do that. And Leif and I are really good friends, so it was a fun thing for us to look back on.
Yeah, it's amazing the energy and the input and the manpower that goes into creating a moment like that. We had a team of, I want to say 12 to 15 people. They all wanted the same thing. They wanted to do a great job. And, that's... it's catching when you're around people who are that passionate about things. So it was fun. Yeah. It was really a lot of fun. We learned a lot about what it takes to produce something like that.
Yeah, so many, countless hours and people working on that. So shout out to ZipRecruiter, and I don't want to power rank those commercials, but better than Tommy Haas's version.
Hey,
so
thank
I mean,
we'll take it.
Sliding ahead of Tommy. One of the great world number twos.
Yeah,
that's a great list of world number twos, but I'd like to think that we just nosed him out.
Yeah,
for
take that, Tommy.
Top spot.
So here we are now in the U.S. Open Series. Always a fun time of the year. Back-to-back Masters, grueling for these tennis players. But what happened in Canada was a couple of breakthroughs, and I want to kind of start with the women's side. Jan Mike, looking at it from Jessie Pegula's side, I mean, it wasn't so much to me about, and the title's huge. It's her second 1,000 event, but who she beat to get there, specifically in the semis, going through Iga, who had given her trouble, and this is a player in Pegula who has hit that wall time and time again. I don't think it can be understated. I know she has bigger goals, but the breakthrough of getting through the best to win a premier title is a huge feat for her.
It is a huge feat for her, and I like her chances on the hard courts. I like her chances on any faster court against Iga if she plays that consistent with some offense, is what we saw from her in Toronto. I think that's she's done it before. She's won a Masters 1000 title before, but this is her second one now. That's I've repeated that huge feat. I think that's what she needs to get through and maybe win a slam. I like her chances at the U.S. Open because of these great results. You sort of see Pegula in the draw. You think you can just blink your eyes and she's going to be in the quarterfinals, almost as a given. Yeah. But is she going to get through and win the title? There's some other names out there that are winning titles as well. So it was a nice week.
That's and that's the thing, Leif, and I don't want to sound too crazy, but she's gotten to the quarterfinals. The loss to Vondrousova in Wimbledon was a tough one. I almost feel like it wasn't so much about the title. It's beating the best player in the world en route, proving that she can do it. And, the goal is the U.S. Open, but having that win over Iga is just all you can dream for.
Yeah, she's been on this incredible journey, and I remember her comments talking about how, it was about belief, it was about execution, and getting to the top of the game. And now that she can take out players like Iga, I think she's that complete elite player now. She's sort of risen from a player who's challenging the top to being one of the top players herself. And I think she takes advantage of everything that's given her. She works as hard as anyone out there. And I think she does it all with, because she has to work extra hard on her serve. She doesn't get a lot of breaks on her serve, but she does break serve a lot. So I feel like she is getting the most out of her game. And right now it's one of the best games in the world.
Yeah, and our friend Andrea Pekovic just said, it's too much is made about how she doesn't have weapons. It's pretty good. It might not be the world-class weapons, but she still can damage players out there. And the mental strength to lose the second set the way she did to Iga and then bounce back was what stood out in that match. And then Samsonova, which was a tough break without the scheduling wet, but you still had to finish the job and cross the finish line.
Yeah, that scheduling was weird, but and there's been a lot of talk about that. Iga talking about it, and I'm glad she's standing up for the WTA players. It's important that she does that as the world number one. But it is what it is. You have to finish the event, and you finish it on Monday, and that runs into Cincinnati. There's a lot of scheduling conflicts, and there's also tickets sold. So it's tough. You make some tough decisions, and Samsonova, that was really tough for her, but in the end, I think she's happy that she made a final. That's
no roof too is a big thing. They have no way to avoid the
I
rain
mean, no
that comes
roof. You
every
can't
year.
expect these. That's a huge undertaking for these stadiums to retrofit their, and put a roof on and do all those things. I hope in the future that maybe that could happen, but they got to find the money to do that.
Right.
So,
it also might raise a good question, the Mike. Should there be an hour where they just say, it's 1 a.m. Let's just call it. We'll pick up the match in the morning. Is that going to be better? Would that be better for the players? I don't know. I don't know.
I feel like that might be better, but then we were both players, Leif. So you're thinking about in the morning, you got to wake up and play again, and then you also, if you win, have to play the final. Can you push back the final? Yeah, you could. It just there's a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot, and so people are going to point fingers and nitpick a little bit, but in the end, Pegula did play the great tennis, and that's who we're talking about here, and I think she has weapons. I think her return to serve is one of the best in the game. She hurts people from the baseline. She redirects the ball with expertise. Her mental toughness is also a weapon. There's lots of different kinds of weapons. It may not be these blazing speeds on the ground strokes, but she gets good depth and she brings now a lot of experience and a lot of winning to the table.
Well, I look too at the funny thing about everyone was anointing this big three, and obviously they all have majors and their accolades speak for themselves, but here's Pegula breaking through. Jabeur made another Wimbledon final, and now we have Samsonova who makes a Masters final and goes through Rybakina to do it. So another tall, athletic woman on the WTA Tour, Leaf, but it might not be just 3 and done. Like, we're going to the U.S. Open with a lot of Coco playing well as well, a lot of contenders.
I think there is something of a big three. Yeah, I think you have to respect, Swiatek, Rybakina, Sabalenka, but I do feel that the women's game is open. It's wide open. And there's potential, I think, for Coco Gauff and Jabeur and all these players to go through. And they're all stars in their own right. And I think the orbit would only get bigger if they get a breakthrough, too. So I think they can. But I do tend to think the favorites are the big three.
Yeah.
And
do you think
they bring to the table something that's sort of the fact that they can serve. They can protect their serve a little bit better. And that's absolutely vital when you come down the stretch at a major, I think. So I'd give them a little bit of a nod, but at the same time, it's open.
Do you look at Coco? Do you guys look at Coco as different in a different light in the last couple of weeks, or do you think? I mean, obviously it's the biggest title winning DC, and then losing to Pegula is no shame in that. But do you look at her in a different light, thinking that she has got more of a chance to win the U.S. Open, or is this just the ebbs and flows of a streaky tennis player with that skill level?
Well, I think it was a great hire that she hired Brad Gilbert.
Yeah.
He's a fantastic coach. The guy's got a lot of knowledge in his head, and he knows how to help players win matches. It's not just what he will tell her, work on her tools. It's the forehand. Obviously, going to talk about the forehand. We talk about the forehand and, all day long. But it felt like it was better in D.C. I felt like she actually hit it pretty well in Toronto as well. She's playing tough tennis, and the better the confidence gets in the forehand, the more – It's like when she knows exactly which shot to play. When that starts to happen and coalesce, and I think that Brad can help her with that. Look, if you're falling backwards, we're going to hit it heavy. If you're up on the line, you're going to hit through it. And that's what we're going to do. Don't make any – it is what it is, and just stand by your decision. Once it gets closer and closer to that, she's going to be a bigger and bigger threat. And so I feel like, I think we're going to be looking at that. She could have a breakthrough.
I completely agree with that. And Leif, I just add that I don't know if time-wise, like, I think the breakthrough will happen. Is there enough time? Because I think I've heard a lot of people say it takes a couple months to really get to patterns with the coaches. And you look at all the people that have had success on both tours, it seems like it's long-term stability. Is there enough time going into the U.S. Open with all the players you mentioned that she could have a breakthrough there?
I think so. I think she's one of the favorites, but I also think they're probably – I mean, you can probably name 12 to 14 women who could win the U.S. Open. I know that sounds crazy, but I really believe that.
Probably less than the years prior almost, like you think. Like
I don't know. I just feel it's wide open. On any given day, any of these players could win it. Yes, you're going to lean towards Iga, who's playing fabulous tennis. Every ball she touches is a threat to her opponent. But Sabalenka and Rybakina have gotten Iga's number. The other players – yes, they're in the mix too. I don't see any reason why Coco couldn't do this. I think the seeds that Brad has planted are going to sprout pretty quickly because she already has such a wonderful foundation. There's a great athlete. She has a wonderful sense of balls in play. Once she secures a little more confidence in the forehand, which I think is happening already. I don't think you can win a title like DC without sort of having faith in a shot. And I think she did in her forehand. It looked good.
The pressure of having, I mean, Iga's amazing, obviously, but the pressure of having to defend this U.S. Open title. And you talk about pressure in tennis. Coco gains confidence. She's kind of coming in with a lot less to lose than some of these other players that are expected to do better. So, yeah, I could see her making that move. And for Iga, it was a tough loss to Pegula, but still the foundation's there, and she's going to rise on the biggest moments. So she's got the highest floor of any tennis player, and that's going to bode well in New York and beyond.
I think that's absolutely true. In the end, we can name a bunch of names, but Iga is still the player to beat. She knows that, and I think that she rises to the occasion extremely well. Other players, and Coco is one of the names, could come in a little bit under the radar, which I think is not a bad thing at all for them. And go about your business, take it one day at a time. That's what you have to do to slam anyway. And we could see sort of a surprise result.
Was it, and before we kind of move on, Coco and Pegula was the match, and, doubles partners playing. Did either of you guys ever have any issues or any weirdness playing someone that you were friends with on the tour?
You try really hard to set it aside. For me, we played a couple times. It was Taylor Dent is a very close friend of mine. We're still very good friends, and so once we became good friends, we even had a conversation. We're going to walk out there and try to kill each other on the court. When we're done with that, we'll move on from that. But all the people that I grew up with, the Bryan twins, are good friends, and so whenever we're playing against them in doubles or whatever, it was there was something there. But everybody's professional. You get used to just playing the matches. Yeah. And everybody's trying to win in the end.
Let's go out there, try to kill each other, have a beer after.
That's a good thing about playing someone there's a little bit of a trust, a faith that nothing untowards or unsavory is going to happen on the court. You play someone that you don't know well, and they start misbehaving, they start doing some things that might be irritating to you, that's getting personal. But with friends, you can just compete honestly without any baggage. And that's what I liked about playing people I knew. I just felt like it was about the tennis and it wasn't about anything else.
All your friends were Hall of Famers, though.
That's right. That's true. It never trickled down to me.
Yeah. It's just, you had friends it was tough to compete with because they're literally the all-time greats in the game. But,
I got the ZipRecruiter ad, though.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's a good one. The last thing I have on this is, have you guys ever had a song interrupt your point and then stuck with it? Because, that's the worst luck in all that is that if Cotton Eye Joe sticks with Pegula the rest of her career, all the songs.
It's a fun, catchy song. There could be worse songs that'd be sticking to her. It was at least, I think it almost helped her. She laughed.
Yeah.
Didn't win the next few points, but I don't know.
I think it was great.
There's been plenty of things that have interrupted matches.
Yeah, it's good that she was able to laugh it off, and I do think that she handled it better than most. She was able to just kind of decompress a little bit and then rebound and win.
She's going to have to learn the dance, isn't she? She's going to have to get in the line, do the Cotton Eye Joe.
They're going to play it her if she wins a major.
It's her trip. They're already tweeting.
I hope they do.
Yeah.
They're tweeting video packages of her with the music. It's just great.
There's some good ones out there.
It's good for her, and I think it's fun. Anything that puts her in the spotlight that she deserves.
These players have fun on the court.
I know.
Gosh. Come on.
It's too much. More with Leif Shiras and Jan-Michael Gambill here on Tennis Channel Inside. And the men's champion, speaking of a breakthrough, Jannik Sinner. 22 years old, still just a young kid on the tennis court. And what I found fascinating about this, not so much who he beat, obviously, Paul takes out Alcaraz, but Jan-Mike, he always is expected to be at this level. And, I think it's just the fans and the prognosticators thinking, why isn't it happening sooner? But if you look at the year by year, he's made steady increments. And this is another notch on his belt, 22 years old, Masters 1000 title, and firmly in the mix going into New York.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'll be interesting, of course, Cincinnati now this week with everybody there, the whole top 20 there in the draw. So this draw is another draw to sort of look at. Novak wasn't there last week, but still, that takes nothing away from winning one of these titles. It's difficult to do. And Sinner continues to step up. And when you talk about the players at the slams, at the big tournaments, in the 3 out of 5, who can give Carlitos a run for his money and who can give Novak a run for his money, day in, day out. Because everybody can have a great day, and the upsets can still happen. But Sinner keeps coming to people's mind. His offensive abilities, his ability to play tough under pressure, to play the big points well, is really up there with the best of them.
3 out of 5 sets. He's made the quarterfinals at every slam at least once. and stability working with Darren Cahill. It's been over a year now. We're seeing some great things from him, Leif. His serve has gotten better. That's the first thing that stands out to me, and I didn't notice it as much until some of the breakdowns. He has changed the mechanics of it, and it's given him an advantage.
Yeah, he's added some miles per hour, which he needed to do. He's a tall, lanky guy. I think he needs to have a powerful serve, needs to get a couple free points here and there. So we've been talking about Coco and how much coaching matters. It matters for him too, and I think he's in great hands with Darren, and he's working with the same longtime coaches out of Italy. He's just, his trajectory is, I think, going in the right way because he's had success before. He's had moments of opportunity, 2 sets to love up against Djokovic at Wimbledon, failed to get it done, played well against Nadal a couple of times, I think, at Roland Garros. So he's had a taste of the big moments against the biggest players. And is there something to be said for you can't win a major without having won maybe a Masters 1000 or one of sort of the big events? I don't know. Maybe there is something to that. Well, he's done that now.
I mean, he's
ready.
He was arguably 1 point away from, he would have been the favorite in every match. If he beats Alcaraz, he's going to be the betting favorite to win the U.S. Open there last year. So he was pretty close.
Yeah.
I do think this stuff matters, like you said, to win a big title, to give yourself confidence. And
he's beaten Alcaraz.
Yeah.
Maybe the match of the year against Alcaraz in Miami. That was just such a brilliant match. It reminded me of the Sampras Agassi matchups, right?
Yeah.
The points they were playing.
It's funny because going into last week's tournament, 4 through 7 was separated by like 100 points, and all those guys lost. Holger, Tsitsipas, Ruud, and Rublev. And now here's Sinner with a win and a chance to get his high. I mean, he could get to that number 4 spot going into the U.S. Open, and then if he has his own section, the confidence and the consistency grows.
I'd actually like to see that happen. I think it would be really interesting if he had his own section. He's sort of looking to the semifinal as being where the big matches, in quotes, would happen. So it could be interesting. There's still a lot of tennis to be played. There
is, but we would all kind of consider him one of the guys next up. And obviously, it's hard to compare anyone to Alcaraz or Djokovic. Medvedev in that 3 spot, loses the demon hour. He's somebody too that we all just, we know what he can do, but you still have to get the results. It's a new season is what I guess I'm trying to say. I mean,
Medvedev is difficult to beat on the hard courts. Yeah.
I think he's got Sinner's number. So I think Sinner's going to have to figure out a couple of people.
That's a good point. But that demon hour match was weird. Like, I mean, I guess Medvedev has some weird losses in there. Demon hour.
He didn't serve well in the big ball. It's double faulted. What was it? 3 games away. We called that one, Leif. It was odd that he did that. He was
double fault on match point.
The demon a little bit from the baseline, who was sort of out rallying him in times where we didn't think that was going to happen. You got to hand it to Alex. I thought that Alex brought the intensity and a little bit of offense, and in these weird moments was more consistent than Medi, which you didn't I didn't expect would happen.
Diallo, the Canadian kid, said that Demon Hour is just a relentless competitor. He's like, that's what I noticed playing against him. And you see it. I mean, he might not have the upside game to get to that mountaintop, but he made the Masters final, and he went through Medvedev to do it.
I mean, even his match against Fritz, down 5-1 in that first set. You know what Alex does is the dream of every coach and the goal of every player. He literally plays 1 point at a time. I almost think he forgets the score.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if he says, I don't know the score. I just play every single point. Of course he does know the score in the end, but he's fighting in the moment, and it's a beautiful thing.
Great competitor. And that is a really good point. He just seems to compete at a nice level too. He doesn't get too overheated. He doesn't get too down on himself ever. Right. He's always there. And weren't we talking also about how his personal life is coming together off court? Maybe his on-court life is also flourishing. So he's in a really good place.
Do you think, switching to the other side of the draw, do you guys think that, because it's happened 2 years in a row in the same tournament, that Paul might be a matchup issue? I don't want to say nightmare, because Alcaraz is gifted beyond belief. But there are some matchup difficulties that Alcaraz has versus Tommy Paul that he might not have against others.
Yeah, well, a couple things why that is Tommy Paul is probably just about as fast as Carlitos is. He's one of the fastest guys out there, so he retrieves a lot of shots. He has that sort of flat delivery on the backhand.
Yeah.
And I think that's a little bit of a factor for Alcaraz to deal with his offense that he plays. So you have Tommy running down a ton of shots and a sort of a flatter ball coming back across the net. I think it causes Carlitos to make a few more errors. And then if he's thinking twice about his game a little bit, now Tommy Paul has this big forehand that he can also utilize, and the serve's gotten better. We talked about Sinner's improved his serve, but so has Tommy. And those things matter in a match. But his ability to put balls back over the net and then be offensive and maybe catch Alcaraz a little bit off guard, I think matter in that matchup.
And Carlos, I still think Carlos is a little bit young. There are times in a match when I go, God, he played that like a teenager. Why did he miss that shot?
Like the Hubie match where he's up 5-2 and
Yeah.
should have just routined it over, and then it ends
There are
up
just
going to
moments
tiebreak.
where
Yeah.
I think, okay, maybe he just loses his way a little bit. So I think that's part of his journey and his trajectory. He's got to be airtight. So I think when he tightens up those things, then he's going to be truly unstoppable.
Yeah, I don't want to think about that. But for the Americans, I mean, Paul is coming in right now with some pretty good momentum. Tiafoe's been a little up and down, and Fritz has been the guy, but he has to do it in New York. Like, he can, I fully believe that he can, but he needs that breakthrough moment. And there is, Jan-Mike, there's pressure in not having done it before, with the expectation of being the number one American guy.
Taylor did that interview yesterday, I think, with Prakash, and one of the things he said at the desk was, I'm playing really well when I kind of don't care. So what's that mindset? How does he get there? How does Iron Mike help him get there? He keeps winning these matches, and even Lechechka, the tiebreaker, ridiculous. What, 14-12?
16-14,
16-4, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, this ridiculous tiebreaker that he sort of slimes his way through by playing some intelligent, consistent tennis when he needs to, and then sort of taking a cut. He's always thinking out there on the court. I don't know how much people sort of understand that. He's really a thinker. So maybe it's in these bigger moments, these bigger tournaments where he really cares, he needs to think a little less. And just, let's just let my tennis do the talking and not worry about the result. Yeah. And I think that might be when it surprisingly comes through.
Yeah. It was a fascinating interview. And I think the success of Francis at the U.S. Open last year, and obviously Tommy at the Australian Open, these are all motivating moments and fuel for all of them. Obviously, Taylor winning Indian Wells, that was maybe the launch pad for the other guys also to say, hey, this is something I can do. So there's sort of that competitive friction that's super positive. Yeah. And I think if Taylor can manage to keep it all in perspective, no reason why he couldn't be around, second week, making a charge into the championship weekend.
All the tools.
Fast court, he's relentless. And
absolutely.
The Nadal Indian Wells match, that was another great tiebreaker where he played smart against one of the all-time greats.
He just slips through these moments where it's like, puts one across the net, and the guy misses an easy forehand, but I've seen it happen so many times. It's like, there it is again, and he keeps coming through in those moments, and that's important. That sort of down the road is going to help him get through some matches actually easier, where he doesn't have to fight for his life.
But he's just very tough to beat.
He is.
Got a huge serve, ground strokes, and solid. I mean, I just think he creates a real question mark for a lot of players. How do I beat this guy? How do I break him down? I think he can still grow as a player in the front part of the court.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. If he can improve his volleys.
Yeah.
If he just puts that effort forward, and I know Mike's one of my good friends. You talk about it. They work on it. They're working on it. But if he just would perfect them a little bit, he would be even more dangerous.
It's weird to say because he hasn't achieved that Grand Slam level success yet, but I feel like similar to the top guys, he's more susceptible early in the tournament. Because once he gets some confidence in New York, I think the crowd's going to enjoy having it, and it's going to be a run.
Yeah.
But like last year, loses the Brandon Holt first round, and the Shapovalov match a couple years ago where he had a chance. I think if he gets to round 4, he's really going to
talk about pressure playing Brandon Holt, his friend who he grew up with.
That's another one.
A totally different type of all the pressure, the insane amount of pressure on Taylor in that match, playing a guy who's coming up, who doesn't have the same kind of ranking, hasn't had the results yet. Holt's a good player. You get a little tight against a player like that who can really hunker down from the baseline and has a nice all-court game.
Yeah. I also think Taylor was actually slightly hurt, and I think he's a quality guy. He's not going to use that as an excuse, but I think he may have been slightly slowed because I remember working that match and thinking he wasn't at 100%, but he competed as best he could, and he was willing to say win or lose. And so I think that's speaks to his character.
And could that be part of the insane schedule that he plays? He just wants to play every single week.
Yeah.
They have to Taylor, you got to take a week off. It's maybe that in the future needs to happen.
And we've seen some long-term guys. It's pretty easy to see who's out there that might not have, they've run into the injury wall or hit that wall if they play too much. So
well, what's the difference between Fritz and Sinner? I mean, they're both big-time ground stroke guys. Pretty good served. I'd give Taylor the Asian serve. Yes. Is Sinner better at the net? Is he better with the transition game? What sets him apart? Why is he getting these breakthroughs? I think they're very similar in the games they produce. Pace from the back.
They play tight matches.
Good strong backhand.
Sinner does drive through his backhand a little bit more, where Taylor's is a little bit more of a redirect type of a shot. Maybe, but that's if you're just looking for differences. They both have big forehands.
Yeah. Remains to be seen. I mean, both
watch.
these guys should be threats at the U.S. Open Cincinnati this week, which I wanted to get to. Just some thoughts as the tournament gets going here on Tennis Channel Inside In with Jan-Michael Gambill and Leif Shiras. Carlos Alcaraz wins his first match, world number 1 over Jordan Thompson. It took 3 sets to do it. Took after midnight. Rain delayed at times, but I was impressed, Leif, that Alcaraz is able to win without his A game and, use some different weapons. Courier said, these guys that can win with all offense, it's nice to see that they're able to do it with their defense and plan B or plan C.
Yeah, no, he was up and down. I think Thompson's a tough out, so Alcaraz maybe got a little fortunate. Maybe he should have lost that first set. I don't know. It was a very close match. Alcaraz, these elite guys find ways to win, even if they're not at their best. What's working for me? They quickly analyze the situation, realize what they really need to do when it comes down to crunch time, and he was able to do it. So he lives to play another day.
Do you think, Jan-Mike, we're going to see a Djokovic-Alcaraz final? Or because I know every time going into these tournaments, Djokovic back in the United States for the first time in a while, these guys, and I'll throw Alcaraz in there, they are thinking major long-term. So I don't know that. I mean, I'm not going to say tank, but will they empty the tank to get all the way to the final, or will Djokovic get what he needs and live for the bigger tournament?
Well, there is a little break before the actual Open, so they would have a week to get that rest. I think you try to win this tournament. Will we see them both in the final? I kind of don't think so. I don't think that'll be the final. I don't have the names for you.
Yeah,
but it'll be interesting to see how well Novak plays. Hasn't been in the States for quite some time. Courts are playing. What we're hearing is pretty fast, and that the balls, instead of fluffing up, are getting pretty small. Taylor gave some really intricate information.
Okay.
So you have a gritty court that makes the balls, even if they're the same balls, and they fluff up. Indian Wells last week in Toronto, and I believe Montreal, the balls were sort of getting a little bit fluffy. In Cincinnati, that's not the case. So there's not as much grit in the courts. They're a little bit faster. The balls are getting smaller, so they're harder to control. Who's that going to benefit in this tournament? I like that it probably will benefit Novak. It's not going to hurt Novak. He will adapt as he always does.
Yeah.
He adapts like the Borg from Star Trek very quickly.
Good reference.
And who else will adapt? Is it going to hurt Alcaraz? It might. He might miss a few more. We don't know.
How about Medvedev?
It's not going to hurt Medvedev.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like he just seems like you were saying
back
that.
On the wall.
You were saying that, and I'm like, this sounds like a Medvedev run.
It sounds like a Medvedev run to me as well. How will it affect Sinner? We're going to have a look at Sinner in just a few moments. We get to call that match today, so we'll know more about that. With his major offense, he's gonna have to bring the targets in. If that's really what's happening to the balls, or if it was just irritating Taylor on the day, I don't know.
Although there was a shot of Medvedev serving. Did you see that on Twitter?
Yeah.
A shot of him serving, practice, turned and fired his racket into the back screen. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's been
Pretty
pretty
upset about something.
Former champ though, so maybe we'll see if he can make a run here. And a guy like Tsitsipas, who made the final last year, that was an interesting final to say the least, but some points to defend. Working with Philip Pusis now full time. It just always seems like there's a lot going on with him. But at the baseline, like the game is there. You just hope, and maybe more stability with Philip Pusis will help him out.
I'm glad if they're going to have Flipper out there, I think you get him full time. Get him out there and really, get what's in his head. What's he going to bring to the table? I think he can probably help the Tsitsipas serve even a little bit more. I think that's one of the things that actually can improve. He's got a pretty good serve, but it could get better. And Mark's just a really good, positive guy. Had a great career and knows a lot. So if you're going to have the coach, get the coach out there and invest in that individual if you believe in him.
Yeah, and Tsitsipas is right there. He should be in the mix second week. You feel just an amazing athlete. I mean, physically gifted. So
yeah, I mean, when his forehand's going, like it's a joke.
In the game. Yeah.
And his backhand I think gets a lot of grief. Yeah, maybe it lands a little short occasionally. I think his backhand's fine now. His underspin backhand could use some work, and I think his return of serve could maybe be improved. But these are, he's a top 10 guy, and he's been a part of that neighborhood for a while. So he's one of the guys to watch, no doubt.
He's one Holger as well. I mean, you never know what you're going to get with him in a lot of ways, but there's a lot of raw talent there.
Yeah, I think when you look at the draw and who might get through, kind of sneak through, Borna did it obviously last year, you look at these consistent players. If it's a faster court, somebody who has good ground strokes, can get the ball deep and doesn't sort of overplay.
Yeah.
So players like that, you go Tommy Paul again. I kind of like his chances on this kind of a court.
Yeah, Rune, again, he's kind of a young guy, top 10 player, but he still has his moments where he makes bad decisions about shot making and maybe floats a little bit and loses points he shouldn't. So he'll have to tighten those things up, but the sky's the limit for that guy.
Well, just on the women's side, before we wrap this up, we saw Ons Jabeur back again and battled from 5-1 down. It was a frustrating loss to the second set, almost one and done. There's just so much scar tissue from the way that Wimbledon final went. It was good to see her fight through. Obviously, not anywhere near her best level, but to get the win and move on, maybe she can flip a page here.
I think so. I mean, everybody wants to see her win that slam, myself included. And she's one of the most likable people that the game's ever seen. She's just lovely, and she's a lot of fun to watch. So I don't know how badly she felt after that, because I was never in a final of a slam, but I imagine it was pretty tough. And that's been a few for her now, 3 of them. And she's getting a little tight in those finals. So I think she can get past herself a little bit in those finals, she's going to get there again, most likely. She has the game to do it.
Yeah.
Then maybe that's going to be the match where all things will be equal and she'll have a shot at getting through and playing her best tennis.
Yeah, I really do hope that she, is able to put some momentum together. But, and again, losing to who she lost to at the Wimbledon final, that was another note I have. Vondrousova looks like she could be a legit top 10 player. Like, she's playing week in, week out. We know the injury thing, but this is a silver medalist, a former major finalist at the French. Leif, she looks like a legit top 10 player.
I will be impressed if she can maintain a top 10 spot through the end of the season. I mean, she's a player who's going to allow her opponents to play a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel like top 10 players are able to take it to their opponents and really impose their game.
Yeah.
I'm never quite sure about players who allow their opponents to play, do what they like to do, and then respond to that. But, I mean, she's got to be having incredible confidence right now, right? I mean,
you're riding high.
Put that at Wimbledon right into your veins, man. That's pretty impressive.
This time of year on the women's game especially, it's tough. Like, obviously, Iga's the default choice because she's so solid at every weapon. I'd say I like Sabalenka, but it's something funny to be like, okay, like I'm backing this player that's A game is amazing, but she could have just meltdowns. Like, there's no other way to put it. She just loses it.
She can, but she seems more and more confident, Sabalenka, with sort of playing. She's going to hit the ball big. She's going to go for the ground strokes, go for her serves and her returns. It's all offense, and it's frankly a lot of fun to watch. That's how I played tennis, so I sort of gravitate toward players like that. But she's also, I think, playing the pressure moments bigger. She's not getting as down on herself in matches, doesn't sort of lose her focus as badly as in the past. So that mental capacity has improved, and I think that's going to help her. Maybe she doesn't have a plan B as far as total different tactics she can use out there. But
I think Maria Sharapova had a little bit of that early in her career, where she was a little bit of a ball basher, but I think she learned to control her groundies and play herself into points and construct points, build points. And I think Saba's getting a little closer to that.
That could be the huge thing for Saba, is really just a little bit more pattern play.
Yeah.
Let's keep my opponent in that deep cross court for a little while, a little longer before I take it up the line or whatever it might be. Just that kind of decision could be plan B.
As gifted as ever, has a major, so we'll see what happens there. Well, we'll wrap this up with just a quick note. Wanted to also give a shout out. Venus Williams winning another match at 43 years old is just crazy. And the other thing I wanted to mention too, Danielle Collins might be kind of storming her way back up and, not making any friends doing it, which isn't the worst thing.
She's not trying to.
She's watchable all day long.
Her business. And there's another offensive individual with the way that she plays her tennis,
I love her game. She takes it to players, and she goes after it. Yeah. And she's got a personality that's totally watchable because you're never sure what's going to happen.
No friends out there. I love to see it. Well, guys, this has been fun. A blast talking tennis with you guys, Leif Shiras and Jan-Michael Gambill. Very last thing, and I don't want to kind of end it on too much of a somber note, but, Jan-Mike, I know how, important Hawaii is to you and what's going on in Maui, and you've been kind of vocal about how we can support and what this means and what we can do to help with the relief efforts with Maui.
Oh, there's a lot of different efforts out there. My friends lost their home in Maui, in Lahaina, and they have a charity called Turn Kindness On, and there's ways to donate there. It's been on my Instagram constantly. I'm trying to promote it as much as possible for people to get involved and just help the families there have basic essentials. And finally, it seems like our own government is going to step up and get in there and offer some more help. Obviously, something of this nature has not been something we were prepared for. Maui wasn't, unfortunately, prepared for it. It scares me to death because Big Island, I wonder if we're prepared for something like that to happen. Kona could be just as vulnerable, and that's home for me. So, I grew up in going to Lahaina. My parents had a condo and just not too far from there in Kahana, and it was what inspired me to know that Maui, or not Maui, but Hawaii was always going to be my home.
Yeah.
From a little kid. So to see that entire beautiful town just gone is I'm still in shock. It's been difficult, and I have friends who've lost their homes, and there's lots of vehicles out there that you can look toward. But if somebody can just give a little, I think it will help the families there a lot.
Well, we appreciate that. You're doing great work. And again, prayers up for everybody working there. Leif Shiras, Jan-Michael Gambill, pleasure as always. Thanks for joining Tennis Channel Insight. And this was fun. We'll have to do more, Triple Threat podcasts.
Yeah, this is great.
Awesome. How many microphones do you have? We could have a party
4.
here.
I got one more. I think we got to tap out at 4. There's 4 that plug into here too. But guys, pleasure. Good luck again. Calling matches and beyond.